My email sent out funeral invitation for me, claiming I had died suddenly. Family members started calling, shocked, until I answered the phone. I'm alive and well, I told them. She didn't expect us to post the invitation online with the caption, "Guess who wants me gone?" I was sitting on my couch, drinking my morning coffee, when my phone started buzzing like crazy. Calls, texts, notifications, one after another, all from family members I hadn't heard from in ages. At first, I thought something terrible had happened to someone in the family. I answered the first call. It was my cousin Dylan. "Hey, are you okay?" He sounded weird. "Yeah? Why wouldn't I be?" I said, confused. There was silence on the other end. Then, in the most hesitant, almost scared voice, he said, "I got a funeral invitation. For you." I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought he was messing with me. "What? I'm not joking," he said, his voice dead serious. "It says you died suddenly? The service is this Saturday." My blood turned to ice. My stomach twisted. "Dylan, send me a picture of it. Right now." Seconds later, my phone vibrated with an image. I stared at it, my mind struggling to process what I was looking at. A real, professionally printed funeral invitation with my full name. My date of birth. And underdate of death, just the word suddenly. Like I had just dropped dead out of nowhere. And at the bottom, in elegant cursive, was the name of the sender. My mother-in-law. I felt physically sick. I immediately called my husband, Nathan, who was at work. The second he picked up, I skipped the greetings. "Your mother is out of her damn mind." "What?" he asked, already sounding exhausted. "She sent out funeral invitations. For me. People think I'm dead, Nathan." There was a long silence. I could hear him breathing, processing what I just said. "You're joking," he finally said, but he didn't sound like he believed that. "I wish I was. I'm sending you the proof." I forwarded him the picture. It took a few seconds, and then I heard him exhale sharply. A long, slow breath like he was holding back a storm of emotions. What the hell is wrong with her? His voice was low, angry. That's what I wanted to know. This wasn't just a little dig or some passive-aggressive comment. This was calculated. This was insane. My phone kept buzzing. More family members. Some leaving voicemails where they were literally crying. One of Nathan's aunts was sobbing into the phone when I answered. "Sweetheart, oh my God. I can't believe you're really gone." "Aunt May, I'm not gone." A sharp gasp. "Is this your spirit?" I had to take a deep breath to stop myself from screaming. "No. It's me. Alive. Breathing. Not dead." She fell silent, probably questioning everything about reality in that moment. Nathan was getting calls too. His co-workers were offering him their condolences. Someone even sent him a grief package, a freaking basket filled with flowers and tea and a note that said, "Sorry for your loss." I was so angry I felt like I was vibrating. This wasn't some stupid joke. This wasn't just drama. This was malicious. My email had sat down, planned this, printed out invitations, and mailed them out. And the worst part? Some people were actually planning to attend my fake funeral. Nathan and I were furious. And so, we did what any sane person would do. We posted the funeral invitation online. Nathan took a picture of it and uploaded it to Facebook with the caption, "Guess who wants my wife gone?" It exploded. People lost their minds. Friends, distant relatives, even people who barely knew me started commenting, sharing, reacting in complete disbelief. WTF? Is this a joke? I literally thought this was a meme. Who does this? Please tell me you're taking legal action. Some people in the comments were pissed. But my email? Oh, she was livid. She called Nathan, screaming, "How dare you humiliate me like this?" Nathan didn't even raise his voice. "How dare you fake my wife's death?" She burst into fake tears. Loud, exaggerated, dramatic. I was just trying to bring the family together. It was supposed to be a beautiful moment. Beautiful? I snapped, grabbing the phone. You sent out invitations to my funeral while I'm still alive. Do you have any idea how psychotic that is? Silence. Then, in the most condescending tone imaginable, she said, "Well, at least now you know how much people would miss you." I hung up on her. But we weren't done. Not even close. Nathan's cousin, Mia, worked for a local newspaper. When she saw the post, she called us immediately. "This is insane," she said. "I want to write about it." And that's when everything got so much worse for Emile. Mia published an article. Headline: Woman fakes daughter-in-law's death to reunite family. It spread like wildfire. People in our town recognized her. Her church community saw it. Her friends saw it. She was mortified. She called again, crying this time for real. Please make it stop. I can't show my face anywhere. I told her she should have thought about that before mailing out obituaries for someone still breathing. But she still hadn't learned her lesson. Because what she did next? Oh, just wait. The fallout from the article was worse than I could have imagined, for her. Nathan and I thought that after being exposed, after the entire town found out what she had done, she would lay low. Maybe even apologize. But we underestimated just how twisted she really was. The day after the article was published, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, expecting another concerned family member. Instead, it was a funeral home director. Mrs. Taylor, he said in a professional voice. I'm calling regarding the arrangements for your service. My service. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. My what? The man hesitated. Your funeral service? I received a request last week to handle the proceedings. But given the circumstances, I wanted to confirm, I am not dead. I practically screamed into the phone. The poor guy stammered, clearly thrown off. Oh my. I sincerely apologize. We were given strict instructions not to contact your husband directly. The woman who arranged everything said it was too painful for him to discuss. I felt like my skull was about to crack open from rage. Who gave you those instructions? I demanded, though I already knew the answer. There was a pause. Then, cautiously, he said, a Mrs. Margaret Taylor. My Emile had not only sent out invitations, she had actually started planning my funeral. I don't even remember ending the call. I just remember shaking as I texted Nathan the news. He called me immediately, his voice sharp. We're going to her house. Now. We drove straight to her place. Nathan was seething. His grip on the steering wheel was tight, his knuckles white. I had never seen him this angry before. When we pulled up, we didn't even knock. Nathan threw the door open and stormed in. His mother was sitting in her living room, drinking tea like nothing had happened. She looked up, feigning surprise. Oh. What a nice surprise. Nathan slammed the funeral home contract down on the table. She barely glanced at it. I see you've spoken to the funeral director, she said, completely unbothered. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You actually planned a funeral for me? I nearly shouted. Are you insane? She let out a dramatic sigh, like we were the ones being difficult. I was just trying to make things easier for Nathan, she said. Losing a spouse is painful, dear. I was stepping in to handle the hard parts. Nathan looked like he was seconds away from exploding. I leaned in, my hands trembling with rage. You're telling me you spent money, made arrangements, and scheduled a date for my funeral while I'm still alive, and you expect us to believe it was to help? She folded her hands neatly in her lap. Yes. I laughed. A bitter, angry, disbelieving laugh. You're sick. I did what was necessary. Necessary? Nathan cut in, his voice dangerously low. She tilted her head and looked straight at him. You need to open your eyes, Nathan. She's ruining your life. She's making you turn against your own mother. Something about the way she said it sent chills down my spine. This wasn't just a woman who hated me. This was a woman who was fully detached from reality. Nathan took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. Mom. Listen to yourself. You don't help someone by pretending their wife is dead. You don't send out invitations and hire a damn funeral home for someone who is very much alive. She waved a hand, as if brushing away an annoying fly. Oh, stop being so dramatic. I had never wanted to slap someone so badly in my entire life. Nathan clenched his jaw, and for the first time, I saw something shift in his eyes. A realization. A finality. Mom, he said, his voice suddenly calm. We're done. She blinked. What? I mean it. We're done. You don't exist to us anymore. She sat up straighter, her fake composure cracking. You don't mean that. Nathan didn't say another word. He just turned, grabbed my hand, and walked us out the door. As we were leaving, she screamed after us. You'll regret this, Nathan. You'll come crawling back. We didn't look back. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. Because a few days later, we got a letter in the mail that changed everything. A few days later, we got a letter in the mail. At first, I thought it was just another relative reaching out after the chaos, but when I looked at the return address, my stomach dropped. It was from a law firm. I tore the envelope open with shaky hands, scanned the contents, and then had to sit down before my legs gave out. Nathan, noticing my reaction, immediately grabbed the letter from me and started reading. His face turned red as his grip tightened around the paper. His mother was suing us. I snatched the letter back and read the words over again, just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. Plaintiff, Margaret Taylor defendants, Nathan Taylor, my name, cause of action, defamation, emotional distress, harassment. She was suing us for ruining her reputation. I actually let out a short, humorless laugh. She faked my death, and now she's the one playing the victim? Nathan didn't laugh. He was staring at the letter like he wanted to set it on fire. She's insane. Did she really think this would scare us? I asked, flipping through the papers. It says she's seeking damages for irreparable emotional harm and public humiliation. She humiliated herself. Nathan muttered. He wasn't wrong. After the funeral stunt, her entire social circle had turned against her. The church she had spent decades attending asked her not to come back. Until she sought professional help. People at her country club whispered about her behind her back. Even some of her most loyal family members, the ones who used to defend her every move, were avoiding her. She had destroyed herself. But instead of taking responsibility, she blamed us. Nathan tossed the letter onto the coffee table and sat down with a sigh. I'll call a lawyer. I rubbed my temples, trying to process how we had even gotten here. First, she tried to erase me from existence, and now she wanted to punish us for exposing her? But it turned out, that wasn't even the worst part. 2 days later, we got another call. This time, from the police. I answered, expecting it to be some sort of prank. Hello? Mrs. Taylor, this is Officer Reynolds from the town name, Police Department. I need to ask you a few questions regarding an anonymous report we received. My heart started racing. What kind of report? The officer hesitated. A missing persons report. For you. I felt like the room tilted. What? The report was filed 2 nights ago, stating that you were unreachable and presumed dead by your family. I almost laughed out loud. I'm talking to you right now. I'm clearly not missing. We figured as much, he said. But we take every report seriously. Your mother-in-law insisted you'd been coerced into silence by your husband and that he was refusing to let anyone contact you. Nathan, who had been listening from the couch, practically jumped up. She's accusing me of kidnapping you? I put the call on speaker. Officer, this is insane. I live here voluntarily. My husband hasn't done anything to me. The officer sighed. I had a feeling. But I still need you to come down to the station just to officially close the report. I agreed, and after hanging up, I turned to Nathan, who looked like he was about to punch a hole through the wall. This is it, he said, voice shaking with rage. She's trying to make me look like an abuser. I felt sick. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This wasn't some petty fight. She was trying to destroy our lives. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, breathing hard. She's desperate. She's realizing she's losing control. I swallowed hard. So what do we do? He looked at me, his jaw clenched. We end this. Once and for all. The next morning, we went straight to the police station. I sat across from Officer Reynolds, who looked equal parts exhausted and annoyed. All right, he said, clicking his pen. I just need you to confirm on the record that you are here voluntarily and that your husband hasn't been holding you against your will. I stared at him. You see me sitting here, right? Walking, talking, alive? He sighed. Yeah, I do. But since your mother-in-law pushed hard for this report, I have to follow procedure. Nathan sat beside me, arms crossed, his jaw tight. I could feel his anger vibrating off of him. I reached for his hand under the table, squeezing it. I took a deep breath and looked directly at Officer Reynolds. I am not missing. I am not being held hostage. I am not dead. My husband has done absolutely nothing wrong. The only problem here is my mother-in-law. The officer nodded. That's what I thought. He scribbled something down in his notebook. We'll be closing this case today. But if you want my advice, you might want to consider filing a restraining order. Nathan and I exchanged a look. We hadn't even considered that yet. Would we have a case? Nathan asked. Officer Reynolds actually chuckled. A woman fakes your wife's death, sends out funeral invitations, plans a service, sues you for defamation, and then calls the cops on you for a kidnapping that didn't happen? Yeah. You've got a case. That was all we needed to hear. Within 24 hours, we had a lawyer drafting the paperwork. We weren't just filing a restraining order, we were suing her back. Nathan's cousin Mia, the one who wrote the article, helped us find a lawyer who specialized in harassment and defamation cases. When we sat down with him and told him everything, he leaned back in his chair, let out a low whistle, and said, "This is one of the worst cases of family harassment I've seen in a long time." We filed 3 things against her. 1. A restraining order, to legally force her to stay away from us. 2. A countersuit, for harassment, defamation, and emotional distress. 3. A police report, for filing a false missing persons report. We weren't going to just walk away from this. She needed to face consequences. The courtroom showed on the day of the hearing. Margaret showed up dressed like a grieving widow. Black dress, black veil, fake sniffles. The judge took one look at her, then turned to me. "Well, you certainly don't look dead to me." I fought the urge to smirk. Margaret launched into a dramatic speech about how she was just a concerned mother, and that we had twisted everything to make her look bad. Our lawyer shut that down immediately. He presented the funeral invitations. He played the voicemail recordings of family members calling me in tears. He showed the signed contract with the funeral home. Then he handed over the false missing persons report. The judge was not impressed. After a few hours, it was clear we were winning. The judge called Margaret out for her actions, saying she had caused real harm and that her behavior was dangerous. And then, the moment we had been waiting for, the judge granted our restraining order. Margaret was legally banned from contacting us, coming near us, or interfering in our lives for the next 5 years. Then came the financial consequences. The judge ruled in our favor for the defamation case, ordering Margaret to pay us a 5-figure settlement. She tried to argue that she didn't have the money, but the judge didn't care. He simply said, "Maybe you should have thought about that before planning a funeral for a living person." And as for the false police report? The DA decided to press charges for filing a fraudulent claim. It was a misdemeanor, but it still went on her record. Margaret started crying, wailing about how she was just a poor mother trying to do the right thing. The judge was done with her. "You didn't try to do the right thing. You tried to control your son's life, and when that didn't work, you tried to erase his wife." Boom. Case closed. Margaret lost everything. Her church cut her off completely. The funeral home refused to work with her ever again. Friends and family distanced themselves. She tried calling Nathan's relatives for sympathy, but most of them wanted nothing to do with her. Some even called to apologize to us, saying they had no idea how deep her hatred ran. She ended up moving out of state to live with a distant cousin. She tried reaching out one last time, sending a pitiful letter to Nathan, begging for forgiveness. He didn't even open it. Just tossed it straight into the trash. And as for us? We moved on. I never had to deal with her again. Nathan never had to deal with her again. We built a happy, peaceful life, one where I wasn't being buried alive by a woman who refused to let go. Justice was served. And honestly, it was worth every damn penny.